I play Madden like you, bro. I'm just gonna trade everybody, bro.
In terms of wanting to do it and putting all that work in, I mean, yeah, it's probably pretty stressful.
Just trade draft picks will be good. Just trade our second through the whatever draft picks we got, and we'll just get guys like that. That's the approach I'm taking. No, man. First off, I think you got to shore up the offensive line, though. Understanding that if you're gonna cut ties with Ramon, you have to hope that BJ Finney or Matt Filer will take less than their market value. Now, there's no guarantee that'll happen. We saw how Chris Hubbard, he was priced out. He couldn't. Like, the amount that he was getting from Cleveland, there was no way that the Steelers could pay him that. Matt Filer just started 16 games, or 15 at right tackle, and he started one game at guard.
He played pretty good, too.
Exactly. So you're going to have to pay him somewhat near market value in that regard.
Yeah.
BJ Finney. He's another guy that they've loved who's proven that he can step in at any time and play well. He's played for Marquise Pouncey anytime Pouncey's been hurt. He's stepped up in a big way. He started at guard or center. So either way, you either want to keep both of those guys and try to keep that O-line as intact as possible, or you let BJ walk or you let Matt walk and hope that either Chooks Okorafor or Zach Banner can come in and start as your right tackle for 16 games. That's a tall task. That's all I'm saying, man.
I've seen Banner's IG, man. He's working hard.
Hey, man, a lot of guys work hard, man.
Dude, he came on, did a great interview with us.
I'm with it, man. Hey, look, I would love for
good
him.
Story, motivated.
Listen, I would love
I like
for
all
him.
that stuff.
I would listen. Anybody that comes on the podcast, I want them to be successful. Period. I would love for him to be the guy. All I'm simply saying is, it's not as easy as some people think of. Just, oh man, he works out, he got abs, plug him in there and play. Like, you know how many action figures I've seen throughout my 9 years? Ton of action figures. Now it's different being a ball player, but ton of action figures. They look great. Check all the boxes, man.
I'd be fine with that. Like I said, we're not going to be able to get everything we want.
Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, the running back room, man. It just depends on how you feel about James Conner. That's the big thing right now.
He looked good in the last couple games he played before he got hurt in those games. Like he definitely showed like he was a step up from the other two backs.
Like, talent-wise, he is the best running back on the team. But it's the health that's holding everything back with him. I mean, if he was healthy, let's be real, this team, I think, looks drastically different even without Ben. If he's healthy, even the year, not this past season, but two seasons ago, a season ago when AB was still on the team, if he's healthy throughout that whole run, I think that team looks different. But he hasn't been. So trying to factor in how that plays out, trying to factor in how big of a role are you carving out for him when you're going into a game and he's game planning to be the feature back and he plays 9 snaps and then turns around and plays another game where he only plays 15 snaps and he has another game where he only plays a half. Like, that kills what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So you really just have to, that's a conversation the coaches have to have, and they got to be honest. And that's a conversation that they got to have with him because church, he's not trying to go out there and get hurt. He's not trying to miss time. I mean, if anything, he's probably been a victim of coming back too soon sometimes.
Yeah, the Browns game.
Yeah. But when you do those type of things, you put this organization in a bind in terms of how they construct their roster, in terms of the moves they need to make going forward. Because if he is the guy and he is healthy, well, then you don't need to go out there and pay for a running back. You don't need to trade for a Le'Veon. But if he's not, and now he puts you in the same situation you've been in the past 2 years, well, now the cycle continues for a third year, and you're hoping and praying that Benny Snell can step up.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big issue right there. The tight end position. If you feel like you're not upgrading, if you feel like you're only making lateral moves with some of the guys we've named, you might as well just stick with Vance, because at least you know Vance and Ben have a rapport. Mm-hmm. You know Vance and Ben, they have a relationship. So if I'm going to have to pay one of these guys that $5 million range, at least let me stick with what I already have.
Yep.
Because if I cut ties with him, and now I'm trying to hope that one of these other guys come in and they work out, am I really ready for Zach Gentry to be the guy?
No.
If it doesn't work out, I'm not ready for that. Am I really ready for Cortland Scotland Williamson?
Who's that?
He was the international kid coming from it was like London, I think it was. He's on the roster. He doesn't he gets the program exemption, for any other international players. So it's I'm not ready for him to be the guy either. No. You already cut ties with Xavier Grumble. So it's just not looking good in that department right now.
No.
And for those people that are going to say, what about Jalen Samuels? Jalen Samuels is a running back / H-back. Don't you ever think that he could play tight end in the NFL, because it is a big difference. Just wanted to clarify that.
You know where they get that from probably is Madden.
Yes, because it says tight end. I already know.
Well, you could put him there, and he's pretty good. If you have a 2 tight end set, you put him on the outside.
I know.
He beats those linebackers.
I know, bro. I'm just simply saying this is real life. It's different. That's all I'm saying, man. It's a difference.
Nah, I get it.
It was kind of like when I saw people saying, well, Ryan Shazier is fast. Why can't we put him at safety? No. What are we talking about here? It's different.
Yeah.
So that's my issue with the tight end position. I do think tight end is the biggest point of need right now, or position
you would
of
do
need.
that. Yeah, if you had to rank it, then you would put
I'm going tight end first,
line first, tight end, running back.
Well, when I say the biggest need
outside of what we already have,
this is the thing: offensive line isn't the need right now, because if you don't do anything and you bring back Ramon, you still have the line intact. Even if Ramon walks, you still already have pieces here that you have already seen. They're proven.
Yeah.
They can play that position. So that's not a major concern.
We just might be a little weaker on the right side.
It's just like, okay, well, how do you make that deal work? How do you make those numbers work? Even with it potentially being a new right tackle, I still believe in DeCastro. And DeCastro plays on that right side as well. So that's going to help him out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at that. And then the left side, you got Al and Pouncey in the middle.
Yeah.
So they can help out for that new guard. So I'm not concerned about that with whatever you want to do in that room. Running back. I think running back is the number 2 concern, though.
Tight end
is 1, running back is 2. Just because of the health concerns that we talked about. In the NFL, they tell you the best ability is your availability. And it's a true statement, regardless of how nice you are, regardless of how fast or how elusive and whatever else you may be. Percy Harvin is a prime example of that. Elite talent when healthy, but he missed a ton of games. And it's hard to invest so much money, have so much money tied up into a person that isn't on the field helping you out. Cam Newton, he's another guy. Why do you think they're talking about potentially him being moved this offseason? Because he's taking up a ton of money in Carolina, but not playing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And then I put receiver at 3rd, man. I think when we talk about that receiving room, you're excited about Deontay Johnson. You're excited about James Washington. Sure. Juju's the biggest concern, though. Is Juju a 1 or is he a 2? If Juju's a 2, well, then you need to make a move to get a 1. If you believe Juju could be a 1, well, then you're fine. The thing is this, and this is a conversation that he's going to be having when it's time for negotiations, is what? Well, man, I could be a number 1. Well, what are your numbers when you were the number 1 receiver? They were bad. And then you can say, well, my numbers were good a couple years ago, but who was he with? AB, and he was the number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest question mark with him right now. And as fans, sometimes we all just from the heart, like, oh, we really like this guy. So you're like, oh, he's number 1. We got to like him. He's the guy. But when you just look at it from the non-biased perspective, it's like, has he shown you that he can be that yet? And that's the other concern. Now, I know we could talk about the quarterback situation, but then the rebuttal to that would be what? James Washington and Deontay Johnson had the same quarterback issues. And they were producing. So for me, that's kind of how I'm looking at all of that.
He was hurt a little bit too.
A lot of guys were hurt.
But it goes back to your whole availability thing.
Mm-hmm. So that's how I look at it, man. I go tight end, running back, and the receiver.
Okay. So you're good with the defense.
Yeah, I think.
In terms of letting Hargrave go.
Yeah, you let Hargrave go because you have Tua coming right back next year. You assuming that Tua is going to be healthy and good to go. Him coming back from a pec injury, I do have a lot more confidence in him returning to form from that, especially with me dealing with the same injury versus Ben coming back and being 100% from his elbow injury. So that's why for me, I'm like defensively, I probably cut ties with Mark Van because I believe Vince is the thumper. I believe Vince is still the heart of that defense. Devin Bush, you're going to leave him out there 100% of the snaps this next year coming up. You have to make the move on Chicolo, and then you just hope that Bud and TJ can stay healthy and that Ola and Tazar can develop behind them.
Yeah.
You might draft a guy in the 5th or 6th round just to bring in a little competition for those two guys, especially since both of those guys don't have high draft pedigree in terms of Tazar and Ola. But other than that,
and then letting Mike Hilton walk too, and Cam Sutton becomes that guy.
The thing, even with Mike, I first tried to see if I can get a deal done with Mike, but it would need to be a deal that can be team friendly.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, because in terms of Mike's market, you could let Mike test the market. to see what it's like, but then ultimately still end up having him sign back. Because it's different when right now we're sitting here and it's like, oh, Mike Hilton, man, shoot, man, I did this. I got these numbers. I got these sacks. I could tackle. But then you go to other teams where they don't view that position the same way. Like Chris Harris, for example. Remember, he was balling out in Denver, and Denver still gave him a very low-level cornerback deal. And then he ended up having to hold out for a little while, and then they gave him a little bit more. But he's an elite-level coverage corner. Like, he could play in that slot and legit just lock guys down. Nikel Roby-Coleman, he's another guy like that. So it's like, when you look at those two type of guys, they're drastically different from what a Mike Hilton is, who's more of the physical, blitzing, getting sacks, a lot of plays in the backfield type of nickel. So it depends on what teams view him like that. And then also, what's their money situation like? If the money isn't hitting like that, well, then he's going to come right back calling.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, we might get a deal done with that. So I'm still not all the way closing the door on him. But the beauty of the Steelers situation is they still got Cam Sutton under contract.
So you would be good with that.
A little more hardball with Mike. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Man, it doesn't look like any crazy moves are going to be made. When you really break it down.
But you say that in a bad way. For me, I always
no, that's what I said though. I really feel good about the roster how it is.
When you make crazy moves, when you try to make all these splash moves, I've been a part of organizations where you do that and it doesn't work out.